Congress passed the $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief proposal. McCarthy said that 9% of what's in the bill actually goes towards coronavirus relief. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'm tired of Democrats pushing this stuff on us like they actually care about the American people. It's obvious in this package that they don't, when 9% is actually going to COVID relief, and then they're packaging this as relief for Americans. Relief for who? It's relief. It's in the form of a Biden blue state bailout, and this is exactly what the American people are tired of. $1.9 trillion. It's our children. It's our children's children who will have to pay that back, and it's devastating what they're doing to our country in the name of relief, and then trying to make Republicans just look like mean, bad people. But we know that there's still $1 trillion that's already been passed and approved that's unspent. Let's spend that $1 trillion before loading up a brand new bill full of pork. We need to do that before we go back to the trough for more.
What are some, like you mentioned that Democrats are trying to make it look as if Republicans are heartless and they don't care. What are some of the most egregious things in this bill that the establishment media isn't covering?
I mean, I just think the dollars spent in horrible places. I mean, why are art institutes getting millions of dollars when the American people are sitting at home waiting on a $1,400 check? I mean, literally, Biden dropped bombs before he sent the checks. I mean, this is what we're at right now. Progressives are incentivizing Americans to vote for Democrats because they think that they're somehow going to get some sort of bonus from it, maybe $2,000 check. Well, no, we're getting a president who's bringing us back into endless wars and just making money out of thin air.
I want to talk about your speech on the Equality Act. You delivered a very fiery speech. You talked about how right is wrong, left is right, and Democrats seem to be very angry at the critiques of you and your colleagues. You quoted scripture saying that professing to be wise, they became fools. Absolutely. What do you say about that?
Well, the Democrats truly have traded the truth for a lie. The truth is there are two genders. You can't just make up how many genders that we have, but the Democrats control the language. And if they control the language, they control the narrative. And if they control the narrative, they control perception. And right now in America, it seems that perception is reality. This Equality Act, who is it equal for? Who is it providing equality to? Certainly not women. I'm a woman. I have 5 nieces. And what about my nieces who now have to look behind their backs to make sure that there isn't some confused man creeping in the bathroom trying to catch a peek at them? Is it equal for the woman who's getting her skull crushed by a man? Is it equal for the parents who are at risk of having their child taken from their custody because they refuse to inject their child with hormone blockers? They refuse to put their children at risk for sterilizing their children. I mean, I'm tired of being on the defense when it comes to this. When are Democrats going to come up and defend their stance on putting our children at risk of sterilization? Is that really what they want? They want our children to mutilate their bodies before they're even adults and make these harsh life-altering decisions? We need to go on offense about this. The Equality Act is not equal for any American in the United States.
You said that the left will continually sacrifice the rights of women and Americans, particularly on the altar of gender ideology. Yes. So it passed. What happens now?
We need the Senate to hold the line. And the Senate is America's hope right now. So we need people all over contacting their senators, calling them. Those phone calls matter. The letters matter. We have logs of who calls in, and it makes a difference when those numbers start to grow on certain topics. So we need people engaged. We need people engaged locally. We need them making their phone calls, sending in letters, sending emails, and supporting good elected officials and good candidates. So we truly can take back the country. But that is our hope right now, the Senate, to make sure that this doesn't pass, because they're not stopping there. We have H.R. 1, and the Democrats, they call this the For the People Act. No, it's the For the Swamp Act. This is something that will federalize our elections. It's a DC takeover of our elections. This goes right back to them controlling the language. They act like it's something that's great for you. The HEROES Act. They act like all of these things are wonderful for the American people, and they're not. Pretty much, if the title of a bill sounds wonderful, run, it's terrible. But the For the People Act, for the Swamp Act. This actually has tax dollars that will pay for politicians' campaigns. It's disgusting. No tax dollar should go to a campaign. So in my home state, there was $5 million of negative ads ran against me. So they should expect $30 million next time because their tax dollars are funding that. This is terrible. Fort Pelosi is making terrible decisions. Terrible decisions are coming from Fort Pelosi, and it's time the American people take a stand and take our country back.
You're obviously huge on gun rights. What impact do you think that the Democrats' proposals for gun control will have, particularly on women?
So for me, I began to carry because I felt threatened. I own a restaurant in Wrightville, Colorado, and there was a man who was beat to death outside of our restaurant. That's when I looked at a different avenue on how to protect myself, and I took advantage of Colorado's open carry laws. I needed a way to protect the people that were around me. I needed a way to protect my 4 boys and myself. You and I, we're petite women, and I don't know if we could defend ourselves against a potential stronger attacker. And so a firearm is the great equalizer. Talk about women's rights. Well, don't take my right away to defend myself. I don't want to take your right away to defend yourself. I moved to Washington, D.C., where the crime rate is 158% times higher than the national average. I need a way to protect myself. I have my Washington, D.C. concealed carry permit, but then I also have Speaker Pelosi, who has put metal detectors outside of the House chambers. The one place that we were actually threatened, she wants to disarm us and make sure that we aren't able to protect ourselves. And now, mind you, she was whisked away to safety on January 6th.
Right,
we were left vulnerable.
Right.
And so it's really unfortunate. And that day I didn't look over to my neighbors and say, I hope there are enough metal detectors outside. No, we needed a way. There were members breaking furniture so they would have a weapon if they needed it. So banning guns is not the answer. HR 127 is not the answer. This is the most egregious gun legislation that I have ever seen come through. And once again, we need the Senate to hold the line.
And what's your go-to gun?
So I like my Glock 43. It's petite, it's reliable. I started carrying a Glock because I wore it in the restaurant, and it kind of gets dirty, like with food and everything spilling. So I know that my Glock is going to be really reliable in a situation like that. And then of course it's easy to disassemble and clean. But yeah, my Glock 43 is definitely my go-to.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.